When you face interviews, when you're writing your resumes and applying for jobs, you will face a lot of failures. So keep practicing. Try to ask for feedback as much as possible. So ask for feedback, and when you get feedback, act on feedback. You don't need to wait till you meet a company to ask for feedback. You can do it well in advance. Share your resume with the seniors. Ask them to ask you questions, start questions, and practice answering some of the questions. Get feedback from your professors, share it with them. When you are doing your internship, create your resume, share it with your internship manager, ask them for their feedback. Try to network with people working in your dream companies, share your resume with them and ask for feedback. These are all things you have to be doing. Okay? And get feedback and develop a thick skin. Don't take everything too seriously. Just understand that you're just beginning your career, and people make mistakes all the time. People with 20, 30 years of work experience also make a lot of mistakes. So it's okay for you to make mistakes early on. Focus on skill development. In terms of, we talked about how to do skill mapping, but don't focus on compensation early on in your career. That's my advice I would strongly want to give everyone, is that all of you will make a ton of money within the next 10, 20 years, because the Indian economy is going to be much, much better. There are going to be lots and lots of job opportunities in India. There are going to be highly paid jobs in India. So your life will always only get better with time. So don't choose jobs just because they pay you well, because you don't want to get burnt out. You want to have the energy to build the skills for the future. So plan for a career like 5 years down the line, what you're going to be doing, 10 years down the line, what you're going to be doing. Don't always focus on what is my immediate next job. Sometimes you may want to take up a job which pays less, but you can learn a lot. And using that learning, after maybe 1 or 2 years, you can then apply for your dream company and easily get in, because companies always trust the skills you gain, and they really want people with highly trained people with the right skill set. That's important for them. They don't care what your background is. Many people, what happens is they get into top companies and stop learning. They forget that the purpose of life is actually to learn every single day. And if you're in a position where you get into Goldman Sachs and you're like, okay, my life is set, I don't need to learn anything more in my future, that's the beginning of your downfall, because you begin here, your friends are beginning here, right? They don't get into Goldman Sachs, but you are here, you get gotten into the best company. The next year, your skill is going to drop because you're not doing anything to improve your skill set, but your friends are learning, so their skills improve. So within 3 years, both of you are the same skill set. Within the next 5 years, they're probably above you, right? So you began from here, you went down because you're not improving your skill sets, but your friends who are more enthusiastic are probably on their way up. So you don't want to be a person who doesn't learn every single day. Focus on picking up skills every single day. Don't be guided too much by what your friends are doing. Ask yourself, what is it you want to do in your careers? Let me pause here, take up questions and come back to this slide in the end. Questions from people as you listen to me.
Sir, whether the courses which you do as electives really matters.
Yashwant, I think it's a complex answer, because you have to ask yourself, why are you doing that elective, right? Is it to get a good grade? Do you want to improve your GPA, or do you want to learn? So I would personally
Uh,
recommend, yeah, please go for it.
yeah, like both increasing my GPA and learning
Yeah.
both as well. Like I'm
Okay.
concentrating on both.
That's good. That's good. So I think what what you should not be doing is we're taking super easy courses, right, where you can actually get a very high grade without learning anything. Right? Don't do that. Don't make the mistake. I've seen people make the mistake in the undergrad, the MS programs, MBA programs. Most companies don't care for a grade point average beyond a point. Like if you are 8 plus, most companies should be happy with like 80% or 8 plus, right? It should be enough for most companies. There are a few companies which are very selective. Like I think as part of the Samsung Electronics team, when I came to IITs, I used to insist on a GPA of 9 and above in the computer science discipline. But that's among the few exceptions. Most people are not too focused on the grades. So I would say that focus on learning, that's important. And also ask yourself, once you do the skill gap analysis, why am I taking this elective? What sort of skills do I want to gain? Using that skills, what sort of companies can I target? What sort of sectors can I target? And only you can answer that question, Yashwant. And if, for example, you're targeting a computer science career, right, there are a specific set of skill sets you're going to gain based on the skill gap analysis. So you do that analysis first and then ask yourself, will I gain this skill to get into this company by taking up this course? And if you say that, if the answer is yes, that can be a good indicator that maybe that elective is right for you. Does it help, Yashwant? Do you have any follow-up questions?
No, sir.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions from other folks?
So, also the placement team will be submitting our grade card as well, right, to the companies.
Yes.
Okay.
So, Yashwant, I'll tell
Like,
you, unfortunately, the reason why grades are playing an important role. It's a very insidious scenario. The reason why it's happening is because there are too many applicants, and companies want to find an easy way to shortlist to a sizable and manageable number. For example, right, when I went to IIT Roorkee a month back, I went there and did a 2-day workshop there. I heard from American Express that they came to campus, 800 students applied, and they ended up selecting one student. You know, the reason why they use grades is because they want to find a random reason to eliminate students and bring the group of 800 applicants to a more sizable number, like maybe 20 to 30. Then they'll work on interviewing maybe 20 to 30 applicants and bring it down to maybe the top 3, top 4, and then further distill it down to the top 2, top 3, and so on. So every recruiter knows that grades is a very imperfect way of estimating the skills of students. It's a very foolish way to estimate the skills of students because ideally, there's a lot of research which also says that grades have little connection with actual workplace performance. But in spite of that, companies are still using it because they feel that that's an objective way to filter people. Again, since there's no better way to filter people, it continues to be used. So it's a little sad in terms of a reflection on how the recruiting process works.
thanks, sir.
Yeah, Yashwant. So again, like I said, if you have an okay, like a good GPA of 8 and above, I think it's fair enough. Don't focus too much on grades, focus more on what you learn because skills are, end of the day, more important. Once you finish your undergraduation, you go to the world outside, to the job market outside, you work for 1 year, 2 years, and so on, right? Nobody will ask you your grades anymore. It's all about the skills you have, your communication skills, your people skills, your technical skills, and so on. Nobody will be concerned about grades once you finish college. Yes, that's another reason why you should not be focused on the grade aspect. Maybe I'll take 1 or 2 more questions if there is someone asking questions, or I'll then jump to this slide, which I also want to talk about.
Scholars, you can also type your questions on the chat
please.
box.
You type it in the chat box.
So,
I know that you guys have done a different workshop with another person in JDF earlier. So is this helpful? Is it different? I also want to hear your thoughts. Any volunteers to talk about how different it is?
Yeah, some of you who sat separately with Mr. Balaji to edit your resumes, I think should share your thoughts. I remember Shri Likita, Dikshant Bansal doing that.
Okay, Ms. Rajeshwari, let me maybe talk a little bit about this slide. I think this is also a little bit important to students because it will help them understand the big picture behind careers.
Sure, Mr. Vinod.
Be thoughtful about what jobs you're targeting. So when I went to IIT Roorkee, every single student was saying that they want to be in product management. And I thought it's a little bizarre because there's just one company coming to campus. It ended up selecting one student. How can, like, I talked to 300 students and almost like 250 of them wanted to be in product management. So I'm like, firstly, there are not so many jobs in product management, and there are also not these companies coming to your campus. So be realistic about which company is coming to campus. So understand the odds of getting into each company. Some companies are necessarily very selective, like investment banking, the top tier consulting companies, the MBB companies, Bain, BCG, or if you're talking about product management, these jobs are very difficult to get because they can be as selective as they want. Anytime they put out a resume, they'll have 10,000 applicants, right? So it's never a problem for them to get people. But if you're looking at, say, a traditional job in, say, civil engineering in Larsen and Toubro, or if you're looking at a job in, say, Tata Motors, right, in manufacturing, there are not going to be too many applicants from the top engineering school. So understand the odds of getting in and then decide, do those jobs make sense for you? Getting your first job is probably always going to be the toughest for anybody in their career. Everybody goes through this. When you don't have work experience, it's so difficult to finalize your job and get selected. So be ready for that fight. The fight is probably going to be the biggest fight in your career. It will only get easier with time. Whichever path you take, 10 years later, 20 years later, when you look back, you'll always say that I did the right thing, because humans have a tendency to rationalize their decisions in life. So relax, whatever decision you make, in the future, you will think that is the right decision. So be thoughtful about what you do right now, but do not regret your decisions, because at the end of the day, it will all pan out correctly. There is this ISRO scientist. I'm not sure if you've heard about them, but if you look at the Project Chandrayaan, and if you look at the profiles of these people, they're the best in the world. They've even beat NASA in terms of doing a live landing on the south pole of the moon, which no country has ever done so far. I think the only country which has done it is China, which did 2 crash landings in the last 5 years. US has not even done any landing, not even a crash landing on the south pole of the moon. So India is the first country to do it. And if you look at the profiles of these people, they're not necessarily the brightest people when they finish their undergrad. They're not from the greatest of colleges, but it doesn't matter. In the long term, if you invest in your career, like most of these ISRO scientists have gone on for a PhD in their 30s, early 30s, mid 30s, they've gone on for the PhDs and finished their PhD from IISc, IIT Madras, IIT Bombay, between the ages of 35 to 40. So it doesn't matter where you begin. It's all about like how much interest you have in your career. And if you keep following your interest, you'll be the best in the world. It doesn't matter what your skills are as you in the first year of your working life. Life is always about a long term. It's always about running a marathon. It's not about finishing a 100-meter race. So what I want to say through this is, don't run a marathon like you're running a 100-meter race. So don't run full speed early on, because that's no way that you will finish a marathon. We talked about the fact that compensation is also not the greatest. I mean, it's an important factor, but do not use it as the only factor to shortlist companies. Use skills and what you're going to gain by working in that company. I think that's a much better way to look at jobs.